Welcome to the final lecture of Module 3. This is going to be a very brief lecture on augmented reality and QR codes. Some of your classmates asked for a little more information regarding how augmented reality and QR codes are being used in virtual education during our live Twitter chats. I was able to talk to a few teachers utilizing both augmented reality and QR codes, and also gather some resources for you to think about how to further implement some of these emerging technologies and trends. That said, this lecture is not going to go in depth into how to do it. I personally have not implemented either in my own teaching, although I'm going to. I was very excited to hear what my colleagues had to share with me about how they've used it in their K-12 classes. So this is just going to be a brief overview for any of you that don't know what augmented reality and/or QR codes are, or just want a couple quick ideas of how you might be able to use them in your virtual classes. So our lesson objective is really just to briefly explore both augmented reality and QR codes. I did include a couple of links on your resources sheet on both augmented reality and QR codes. There's not there's very little research actually out there, and there's not a whole lot of just general resources out there yet, but there is some good information, and I've included that on that resource list. So augmented reality, let's start with that. Augmented reality is the opportunity to be able to see an augmented world around you or an enhanced world around you. And it's using mobile devices. So it's the ability to hold up a mobile device, identify something or someone around you, and be able to see more information about that. This is an example of an augmented reality application that highlights particular sites if I hover over them with my mobile device, and gives me more information about those particular sites. As you can see here, this is about the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree that's housed in New York City during the holidays. So as I described, augmented reality enhances reality, or it brings new information to what you see around you, and often can even provide you with 3D images of objects or things around you that you can then manipulate. One of the best examples of augmented reality are Google Glasses or Google Glass, where you're able to wear glasses and see so much more around you and information around you provided by various resources and sites, predominantly by Google, that than you could without having those glasses on. Google Glass also enables you to manipulate and play with objects. We see this in movies quite often, and that kind of technology has become very real and is now available for use in certain types of settings in virtual education. Of course, this does require mobile devices. So for those of you that are in situations where your students don't have access to mobile devices, this cannot really apply. Although if you have a mobile device, you could certainly do things and allow students to use that in your class if you just had one. But this is ideal for situations where students are in a one-to-one setting where they have their own mobile devices and they're already using them in an educational way. Now, the reason it does require mobile devices, obviously, is because it's using not only the camera to identify what it is you want to augment, but it's also using the GPS so that it can pinpoint what that may be. There are some really great apps out there. Google Goggles, Google Sky Map. I love Sky Map because you can look at the stars in the sky and it can help you identify what the constellations may be. There's Augment, String, Aurusma, and even Fetch. All of these tools do different things, from displaying 3D images that are you can manipulate on your phone, to giving you more information about things like paintings or famous buildings or sites or even people around you. Now, augmented reality apps, because you're really using mobile devices for these apps can be used to support science, art, history, and even math lessons, depending on what you're trying to instruct students. They're actually a great tool to embed in things like field trips or explorations, where you're having students explore the world around them, play with the world around them, and report back on what kind of information they uncover about the things around them and how that relates to your particular lesson. This could be really interesting if you're teaching a virtual class with students from various places. If those students are from various places and you ask them to go identify 5 or 6 different things in their local neighborhood, and they use one of these augmented reality apps to get more information as they're doing this exploration, they could easily report back on that information, even screen capture some of the images from those apps, and then share those with other students in the class, as well as their reflections and observations. So it could be a really cool way to incorporate learning about things right in the exploration of those things. Now, similarly, QR codes unlock content as well. So if you want to think about augmented reality as unlocking content that we don't see every day, QR codes can be used the same way. You're probably very familiar with QR codes or quick response codes in your sort of day-to-day life. We see them in magazines, we see them associated with all sorts of business activities. We even see them in museums or in community service activities where you might be exploring something and you see QR codes to unlock more information. They can be used in all sorts of ways, somewhat to gamify, although I'm not sure I would completely say using QR codes becomes a game. But they're a way to go get special information or to unlock information or to even unlock a badge or a recognition. Now, QR codes can be very simply made and they can be very simply implemented in education. So one of the links on your resource list this week includes how to actually make a QR code very simply and attach it to something like a worksheet or an assignment or even a web page where students can then uncover more information. Now, mobile devices are also needed with QR codes because it's the mobile devices that have those QR readers that can then unlock that information. So once again, this is a mobile device type application or type technology. So if you're in settings where students don't have access to those mobile devices, at least one, you may not be able to use this. Now, I did talk with a few teachers that have used this in their hybrid classes. And what they'll do is they'll be in a classroom when they're in their actual physical classroom. They'll post up QR codes all around the room. And students can use their own mobile devices, or if they're sharing devices because you have a couple that your class can use, to go to those different stations and to unlock activities. This unlocks their assignment. They go and they finish that. They go to another station that can unlock a badge and the next assignment. Be great for labs. It would be great for any type of hands-on projects or team activities that you might be doing in your physical classes. Now, in your virtual classes, similar to the use of augmented reality, you could use QR codes as a way to support scavenger hunts, community activities, and other types of experiences that already support either QR codes or that you could easily add QR codes to. Perhaps you give students a handout that they'll then print. They'll be exploring a museum on their own, and they'll click on a QR code when they hit different stages in that museum, and that QR code can lead to whatever you want it to. So it could lead to further information, a question that they have to answer, or whatever you're looking to do. It just makes it kind of fun and engaging for students because they're looking and digging and hunting for things and are able to pull up or unlock information relevant to the context that they're in at that moment. You can also create individualized instruction this way, especially if you're having students path through activities. So it's a way to differentiate or individualize your instruction with your students so that they can build on their skills at the progression and speed that they need to, and that you can ensure they're building the entire collection of skills and not missing key components because they're either moving too fast or too slow. So that was just a brief introduction to using QR codes and using augmented reality. Once again, for those of you that are already experimenting with this, please share with the class. This is something new in education that's being used, and so there aren't a whole lot of great anecdotes that you can pull from. I did ask colleagues, and they shared some of these with me. But please share with one another in our discussion so we can learn more about how you may want to use this. And once again, the resources on the resource sheet talk about actually how to do one or how to make QR codes and implement them. And then there's another resource that gives you access to examples of different lessons that use QR codes. So let's think about a question or how we might want to apply or reflect on what we've just learned. So I've decided, as part of a history lesson, I want to have my students conduct a virtual exploration of a set of museums. And in fact, my students are virtual students, so they're all at a distance, and they're going to do specific museums close to them. Well, I've thought about incorporating QR codes in their exploration. What should I do with those? Should I unlock new content? Should I open up questions for students to answer? Or should I even think about recognizing as students progress through activities during these museum explorations with those QR codes? And thinking about those museums, are any of those museums already using QR codes? Because many museums are, and if they are, how can I capitalize on what they have developed for the exploration of their museum in my own lesson?